Hey guys, so I just wanted to put something down because Jen and I had a realization the other day, and it's a pretty big one, and I wanted to share it with you. And I'm not really sure how to articulate it because I think that there are things that are beyond even what, as great as our intentions are and as great as our intentions intend to be. I think God's perspective is so much wider and so much deeper and so much more interesting than my own. But He can do with small things, He can do amazing things. So we're preparing to chat with. We're preparing to commemorate Mayflower Week. And we've got some pretty cool guests that we're going to try to announce here soon, so watch out for those. And as we're doing that, we are also doing this Glenn First 40. So we do First 40 a day devotional thing. We're not associated with the Glenn Beck anything, so I don't know what his intention is. But we just thought, hey, we're trying to invite God into our national identity. That works. Let's do that, right? And we're looking at this stuff, and we're going, why does this Glenn First 40 thing? Like, he keeps talking about the American Covenant, and we're like, why does this sound like Under God Project? Like, why does this sound like our compact? And we started looking back at our notes and at our source material, and we're like, oh, that's why. You know, I didn't approach the compact, the family compact in-home experience. I didn't approach that with the American Covenant in mind, like, be completely honest. And it's not a bad thing. I wasn't avoiding it. I didn't want to not do it. I just thought it just didn't enter into my mind that we would be invoking the American Covenant. I don't know why it didn't come. Look, this is what I was trying to do. I knew that God had blessings and prosperity and protection available to our nation if our nation would invite God in, right? These are just other words for a covenant-keeping biblical nation, right? A biblically centered, covenant-keeping nation. But once I realized that, like, wait a minute, we are invoking the American Covenant here in substance. No, I'm not using the same language. No, I did not say American Covenant. And no, I'm not, the word covenant doesn't appear. But that's what it is. That's what all, Under God Project is. Under God Project was always all the things we can do to invite God into our national identity. And inviting God into our national identity assumes that we are going to be keeping our end of that bargain. And the covenant, the compact itself, has a couple of really key parts to it that I think are very, very interesting. So, like I said, we're not involved in Glenn Beck anything. There's no collaboration or association whatsoever there. But like I said, God has a way of using a little bit here, a little bit there, combining them, and then presenting them to the American people. And so I'm really excited to see where God takes this, because our intention, all of our source material's the same. I'm looking at our notes, I'm looking at the speeches that we used, I'm looking at the speeches that we used, I'm looking at the scriptures that we used, the other sources that we used, and it's just said differently, right? It uses a little bit of different language, but that's it. We're still invoking the covenant associated to this land that's set aside to be a land of liberty for a covenant-keeping people. Now, what's interesting about what Under God Project and the compact does, the reason why it looks different is because it is for this time. It is for this people, and it's a way that we can do that without permission from from anybody else. Like, we don't have to do it. So, you know, when George Washington did invoke the American Covenant, you know, at his inauguration and the institution of the Constitution, he led prayer for like 4 hours, right? And collectively brought everybody together. It was like this big long prayer, and then they all together decide to, or they all together repent and draw closer to God. And so he then says, so that's the way that they do that. Well, the way that we do it now, so the way that it works for Under God Project is you have your prayer with your family. The families do it individually. Okay? The families go out individually and do that in their home. They gather their family, because America is only as big as our kitchen tables allow it to be. So the father, the mother, they say, children, sit down. This is our nation, and we are going to do the best thing that we can for this nation, is invoke God into our national identity, and we're going to do it here in our home. And so, you know, we sign the document, we put in the centerpiece promises that glue our individual families together, and then you make a seal, and that seal signifies your family, and it's unique to your family. Sign the back of that, but that seal is really your promise to another person. That's your signature on somebody else's, right? That's your signature on somebody else's compact that says, I'm going to keep my part of this covenant, and it's going to go on your wall now. So what you get is someone else's seal on your compact. You put your signatures on it. You glue your family together, and you see that this is, yeah. And that to me was the big realization, was like, whoa. Like, instead of everybody gathering around for hours at a time, you have your own individual prayer. And I have my own individual prayer. And I sign the back of a seal and I send it off to someone else. And that seal means that they will keep their pledge, that they will keep their, you know, the Declaration of Independence was signed by the signers of the Declaration of Independence after they invoked God into our national identity, through the top all the way down. The last line, it says, we pledge to each other our lives, fortunes, and sacred honors for that cause. So in a very real sense, that's the way that it works. You know, the compact also involves the next generation. We'll talk about that in other podcasts, but it involves the next generation. You know, when Dwight Eisenhower invited God into our national identity, invoked the national, invoked the American Covenant through adding under God to our Pledge of Allegiance, one of the things that he was the most excited about was that this was going to be, this would preserve the liberty of our next generation, because the next generation would be saying it every morning in their schools, would be saying the Pledge of Allegiance, would be saying under God every morning in their schools. And for a long time, that's exactly what it did. And so we involve the next generation by, one, involving them, actually involving them in the signing of the compact, by making it fun, by making it interesting with the gold leafing and the kids' signatures and the calligraphy and the pen, and that's fun. It should be fun. But then the next part about that is when it goes on your wall, right? You're not going to take that down. You can't take it down. Nobody's going to take it down. That's somebody else's pledge behind that seal. They made it for you. The whole thing is handmade. It's all made in America. Well, I think everything but the paper. I make it myself. That's not coming down. That's a national monument. And as people sign them and pass them around, as people sign them, it's a national monument. And it's a monument that you made in your own home. And it's got your own family pledges and promises on it. Right? Like, that's not, if that's not an American covenant, I really don't know what is. Families individually saying, hey, I'm going to back you up in my pledge. I promise the same things too, and I'm trying to invite God into our national identity, and I'm connecting my family together. I seek out God's blessings, His prosperity, and His protection, and all of those things are in the verbiage there. It's beautiful stuff. I just didn't realize that that's what we were creating. I didn't realize that that's what was happening. That wasn't like. I just didn't realize that that's what was happening. But it kind of sets me back. It kind of takes me back. To see that that's what it could be. I think a lot of people will like it because it's a handmade craft, and they're like, oh cool, that's fun, and they do it because they're like, oh wow, that's interesting, and that's totally okay, guys. Help yourself, that's fine. I don't think it sullies anything. I don't think it sullies anything at all. I think the entire approach is, instead of trying to elevate our nation and every family in our nation and every moment and every person in our nation, and elevate everybody's attention upward all of the time at the same time in a coordinated effort, that we meet you where you're at, you bring as much patriotism, nationality, covenantry, commitment, and pledge that you can, and we all bring that in supplication to God. And I think God will bless that. I think God will bless that approach, to say, this is the way that America is right now. And there are some that are very covenant focused, very commitment focused, very pledge focused, very historical, very deep, very that love this nation so much, probably greater than I could, right? Some that have these deep roots that go all the way back to America's firstborn family, like my wife and myself and my father, and etc. And some that just love this nation because they just do. And some that really like the idea of the nation. If you don't like our nation, if you don't like America, if you don't like the USA, Under God Project is not for you, right? But there isn't anybody who's in Under God Project that doesn't, anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. I don't know, like I said, that it's interesting what God makes out of pure intentions. So anyway, happy Sabbath to y'all. I appreciate you. Love you all. And yeah, we'll see y'all next week.